I would like to give you a little bit of background on Daniel, who was the former co-founder and CEO of Mofi, who has over a decade of experience in battery design, production, manufacturing, and over the course of his time at Mofi has delivered over 15 million units of the Mofi juice pack. So that just goes to a little bit of the credibility behind the team and the design of this new super battery that is inside of your Immotor Go. I'm going to hand this over, our super battery, to Daniel Huang to talk about some of its features.
So we have designed the super battery using a very different approach. First of all, we designed it in a way that physically it's so different than most of the batteries out there. It's constructed by a very rigid metal case, as you can see over here, and then joined by a smart connector we designed and completely sealed it from water and dust or anything. So this battery is contained in a case that is very rigid.
Talk about what's inside the case and physically how the battery itself is compartmentalized and what that does for its safety.
Yeah, so each cell, we are putting a separator material among each cell, so to provide additional shock and impact absorption capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we have designed a metal tab that is soldered onto the cell. And the design was in a way that whenever each individual cell has abnormal high temperature or high currents, the metal tab itself will melt right there. So before any electronic circuitry will respond, the metal tab itself actually disconnect that particular cell from the entire system.
That's okay. That's a good point to mention. So each cell can potentially, in the event of failure, disconnect itself from the rest of the structure
Correct.
inside. Okay.
Correct.
Now let's talk about what else is inside here. Is that the battery itself has its own microchip, right? And ability to be programmed, right?
So that's another very unique feature that we designed for the Immotor Go Super Battery, is the software that we have programmed and put into microchip can actually record and store the entire life cycle data for the battery from its production date to all of its entire use. So that will actually allow us to set some parameters for the battery. The battery actually can respond to any abnormal environmental changes and could actually shut down by itself if it detects there's anything that is unusual.
That is outside of the program parameters. So in the event of an accident or some other catastrophic failure, then it knows to just completely deactivate.
Correct.
Okay, interesting. And in terms of how it functions with the product it's designed to power, tell me a little bit about how it interacts with the Immotor Go.
Yeah, so because we designed the microchip inside, it has its own intelligence. And if you look at here, the connector, we separate the power connection from a data connection.
Mm-hmm.
So each battery will need to be authenticated by the Immotor Go. And when the Immotor Go create a handshake with the battery, then the battery will actually send the power to the device.
Got it. So the battery is essentially just a brick unless it is paired with the scooter, plugged in, and then the scooter demands battery and then it provides it.
Correct. Like currently this battery has power and the power line actually has no voltage, no power whatsoever until the Immotor Go send a signal to it and and tells you about they're asking for power.
Okay, that's great. So in addition to the fact that we have this rigid case that is weatherproof, waterproof, and impact resistant to a certain degree, the fact that you've built in the software that is not going to allow for any kind of power demand unless it's authenticated by the product, what kind of testing and validation do you perform on each battery before they're released?
Yeah, I have designed products that gone through many rigid testing in the past, and and for this product we actually putting additional testing for it. So before we put this product into the Immotor Go, we will actually go through 3 to 6 production burn-in life cycles of checking. So we charge it up and then discharge it for 3 times, 3 full cycles, and using the microchip to monitor the entire 3 cycles and compare with the design parameters that the engineer put together for the spec. And if we discover there's anything goes wrong with the battery, we're gonna pick it out and we're not gonna ship it.
Daniel, thanks for that information. So those are just a few of the features, primarily safety features and intelligence that we've designed into this super battery, among a whole host of others that you'll learn more about as we go along. But the most important thing is that we want you to know that we are dedicated to producing a safe and reliable product that is tested and that will not have any issues.